Hello, everybody. This is the Daily Pop-Off for Friday, the 8th of November, 2024. Yes, a Friday. We'll do a channel update in this video. Tell you when we'll be live. But remember, we can pop on to pop off. That's still a thing. Anytime we, have something urgent, feel compelled to talk about. So always have your notification bell on. Subscribe if you like what you see here on the channel, the Virtual Church of the Disillusioned. Hit the like button and hit that notification bell. Then you got a good chance of knowing when we come on out of the blue live. And here on the Daily Pop-Off, which admittedly is not every day, we tell you about the live shows that are coming up and comment on the hot button issues. So, it's been a heck of a week, hasn't it? It's been a heck of a week. We laid the groundwork for a return to democracy because the progressives had it ass backwards. They were saying that if you vote for Donald Trump, that'll be the end of democracy. Oh, he's going to be Hitler. He said he would be a dictator. What they refer to as a poorly put joke when he was asked if he would be a dictator. And he said, I'll be a dictator for one day. Drill, baby, drill. In other words, a better way to answer it would be a firm no, but I am going to insist that we drill, that we use the liquid gold under our feet and get our economy back, secure our place in the world again. So on Tuesday, November 5th, most of us Republicans sat nervously looking at the results and doing a lot of praying. I would, as I said before, periodically leave the living room and go out into the yard in the darkness of night and pray fervently that we could change course and that we could get away from the evil agenda that is the progressives. It's not Democrat versus Republicans. The Democrats have been pushed out of the way by the progressives, and the results have been disastrous. Even Bernie Sanders says that. I'm going to quote him in just a second. But maybe this means the Democrats will make a comeback, but I don't think so because it's an age thing. The X, Y, Z generation, and even as far as the millennials too, are not going to go back to traditional American values that preceded them. Many of the millennials were not taught any values by their mother and father. And so, or if they were taught values, if they lived in a strict home, they said, well, I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm not going to raise my kids like that. And they let them get away with anything and everything, no real guidelines. They started saying things like, well, it's okay if they curse when they're mad. And so next thing you know, you got a 9-year-old telling you to go F yourself. That's what that leads to. And it leads to chastisement of the grandparents who are told, oh, no, now you're violating their space. Don't just take their picture, or don't tell them what to do. You're hurting their feelings. They're sensitive. So it has led to one generation to the next being more rebellious, more soulless, without values, without a desire to have a passion to work for their dreams. Sometimes they don't have any dreams. Their dreams is for a better PlayStation, more technology, to sit in their room like a zombie. There's a real sense of entitlement. So let's see what Bernie Sanders had to say. He won in Vermont. He's 83 years old. Maxine Waters won re-election to the Senate, and she's 86. So Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders issued a scathing statement on what he called the Democratic Party's disastrous campaign after Vice President Kamala Harris lost the presidential election to former President Donald Trump. The Independent, who caucuses with Democrats, said it should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find the working class has abandoned them. Ah, yes. Bernie doesn't always, propose bad ideas or come to the wrong conclusion. He nailed this one. First, it was the white working class, and now it's Latino and black workers as well, Sanders continued in his statement. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are hungry and want change, and they are right. That's why Trump got a mandate that the enemies of Trump will try to block, thus blocking the will of far more than half of the country. The longtime progressive champion who ran for president in 2016 and 2020 reflected on the ways Americans continue to experience economic instability from income and wealth inequality to a lack of guaranteed paid family and medical leave. So he is a socialist, but he knows that his party, the Democratic Party, is bleeding voters. And although he didn't go into detail in this article here, he knows that when we focus on things like gender-altering surgery for someone as young as 12 or 13 years old, without parental consent in some states, that we've lost our minds and that people just aren't going to line up for that. They're going to fight that. The Democratic Party, the liberals, used to be not only the party of tolerance, it was never true, the party of tolerance, but they were the founders of the women's rights movement, the liberation movement. And all of a sudden, 1 or 2% of the population identifies as transgender, and they want to throw women's rights and girls' rights out the window. They want a biological male to come into your daughter's locker room or to your locker room and change in front of them and, of course, be able to observe them. Karen tells me these days that at the YMCA where she swims, very few, especially XYZ generation, almost none, allow themselves to be naked in the locker room. They don't. They find ways around it because they don't want some man coming in saying, well, today I identify as a woman, so I have a right to be here. And we know, talk about denying women's rights. People that would say that they are, they're often women themselves, and yet they want to pit a female athlete, whether it be an adult or a teenager, against a biological male that could hurt them very bad. So what we see is that these biological males, whether it be swimming or volleyball or whatever, are always winning. They're always winning. And girls' dreams that they trained for and that they had a vision to accomplish, destroyed for 1 or 2% of the population. And then when you start hearing things about prisoners in a male prison that don't like it there, think, well, I'll just say that I now identify as a woman. And Kamala Harris was okay then with you beginning the process to become a woman, and then you could transfer to the female prison. And of course, that would be a much more pleasant experience. And it's happened, and there's been incidents of female prisoners being attacked by biological males in their prison. So we've lost our mind in so many ways. But thing that is well, it needs to be watched, is that as Trump gets ready to assume the presidency again, January 20th, 2025, his enemies, sometimes his long-term enemies, are plotting around him. How long will it take for some senator to file a motion to impeach President Trump? Now, the good news is we have control of the Senate, and I think we've locked in the House. So at least for 2 years, we're going to be safe. They spent $16 billion trying to get Kamala Harris elected. She only had 100 days to do it because President Biden, didn't want to give it up. He gave it up for the good of the country. No, they had to kind of strong arm him. Obama and others had to talk to him and say that you are going to bring down people in the Senate and in the House for staying in the office. After that presidential debate with Donald Trump, it was clear that our president, who is still president, as I speak to you now, Joseph R. Biden, was in serious cognitive decline. And we see that from time to time. But he takes medications. There's all kinds of medications they didn't used to have before. And if you hit it just right, he'll sound somewhat lucid. But they wear off, and sometimes they wear off at the worst times. At the worst times. He was not ready for that debate, and Trump could have been much more cruel. He could have said things that would have made him look very, very stupid, but Trump was somewhat reserved. He was reserved. But one of the enemies of the president said, I am ready. This is someone in power. I am ready to do everything in my power to ensure our state and nation do not go backwards. So in other words, now that we've had like 20 million people waltz into America, taking jobs from American citizens and what have you, now that we have rapists and murderers in here that weren't vetted, all because of the Biden administration. Trump is going to come against that, and he is going to start the deportations immediately. He says we want immigrants to come because we need immigrants. For one thing, yes, here in America, they're having less babies. The ladies, the women are having less babies, and there's a number of reasons for that. And I don't see it changing course. The Y and the Z's don't want their life overtaken by a hourly dose of being a mother. They want to live for themselves, and I think we all know women that made a decision not to have children, and that's up to them. I don't judge them for that. The Bible says be fruitful and multiply, but if your heart is not in parenting, then it would be best to refrain and take the proper precautions to make sure that you don't get pregnant. Now, President Trump is not for a national ban on abortion. He's okay with contraception. The morning after pill, I think he's okay with, and 6-week rule, that kind of thing, exceptions for rape and incest, or when the mother's life is in jeopardy. Every state, when the mother's life is in jeopardy, makes an exception for that. But you can't expect people that are not of faith to behave like they do have Christian faith, for example. So it's if you want to get elected, you have to approach this sensibly. As President Trump says, follow your heart, but that's also when you follow your heart, you also have to realize we have to win elections, and the Republicans just won one, and I think God's fingerprints are all over it. I think God's fingerprints are all over it. So we have attorney generals in liberal states that are going to try to stop the mandate of the people and come against Trump, try to set him up for more litigation that he would potentially have to deal with when he leaves office. Right now, his $500 million judgment for E. Jean Carroll, who says that he accosted her in the dressing room of a retail store, is in appeal. It's an appeal. I suppose it could go all the way to the Supreme Court. See, the thing is here, if you remember with the Kevin Spacey trial, his first trial, I think, which involved a young man, but his mother, who used to be a news anchor, and she was much more well-spoken than him, she was doing most of the press releases, etc., for him. She deleted text that would have been very helpful to Kevin Spacey to prove his innocence, So she deleted that, and the court finally determined we gotta find Mr. Spacey innocent because you destroyed evidence. Well, I'm not sure if there was video, working cameras in this retail store. I've never heard anything about this, but they would have recorded President Trump, or then probably the host of The Apprentice, Donald Trump, kind of coaxing her into this ladies' room and going in with her. And so that would have been very damaging video. But if you wait till it gets erased, because they all get erased, only Hugh Hefner kept his tapes until a few years before his death, because there was cameras in every room of the Playboy Mansion. And then he had them put in a casket, taken out on a boat with his security, and buried at sea. But other than that, in retail environment, those tapes only last for so long, or digital files, and then they are erased, and you don't keep them forever. So years later, she brings a case against Trump, looking for a payday. And Trump sometimes doesn't help himself when he makes comments that get him, well, it gives another opportunity for him to be a target, for him to be a target. So we'll see what will happen. We had Jimmy Kimmel basically telling the audience that if they were stupid enough to vote for Donald Trump, even they won't like it. It means bad things for the immigrants. Now, he knows that there are plenty of legal immigrants here. They came the right way. They came in the right way. They went through the process, and they add a great contribution to the United States of America. It's not about not loving immigrants. These are God's people too. But when you start to have people from countries all over the place just walking into America, flooding cities, bankrupting the American economy, no, that can't last. So we actually have attorney generals that will try to come against Trump and stop him from doing what he has the power to do. Now, when Joe Biden became president, he sat at a desk with large assortment of pens, and he destroyed the safety of this country. He stopped the building of the wall. He stopped the Keystone Pipeline, one thing after another that would send America into turmoil, especially in terms of illegal immigration flooding across the United States. Every state becomes a border state at some point because they just travel into your state. And in places like Springfield, Illinois, destroying people's lives there. And then we heard about the rapes, and we heard about the murders, etc., etc. So it's going to be a tough situation, but President Trump has shown himself to be up for the task. He seems to literally feed on living on the edge, and he will answer the reporters' questions. He'll have a great staff. He's just named a woman as his chief of staff, someone that's been with him as the campaign chairman, running things. She's got a great reputation. She's the daughter of Pat Summerall, the sports announcer legend. And so he does believe in strong women. That was just a silly quote from Mark Cuban, showing that like George Clooney and Jessica Roberts and a host of others, including the boss and Bon Jovi, that they're really very shallow people that have no idea what it's like for the real person. And Bernie Sanders does have the pulse. He's got his hand on the pulse of the working people out there. So he knows that this was a disastrous campaign. He is no fan of Kamala Harris. He knew that she was shallow and that she was not liked, that 92% of her staff had quit on her, and that she would just give word salad. She didn't have a grasp of the issues. And often as vice president, she would look so foolish because although her staff tried to school her and get her up to speed, she resisted that and then screamed at them later when she looked like an idiot. So that's enough politics for now. So this weekend we'll have Worldwide Ramblings at Saturday night, tomorrow, the 9th of November at 10 p.m. East Coast time. I don't have the headline of the program yet, but I always know that my audience wants to speak and talk about the pastor from Benton, Arkansas, Bob Joyce. Was he Elvis? Is he the king of rock and roll? in a whole new role now, preaching the gospel. We've been talking about that since 2018, and it's the topic that keeps on giving. Of course, when you burn out the topic and go overboard, it's not helpful to anyone, including yourself. It's not. It just can't survive that way. But here at this channel and on Worldwide Ramblings and other live shows we do, we have an incredibly loyal audience, family from around the world, various parts around the world. And they sustain us, and we have a great time. We have a lot of fun. We get serious for a little bit, and then we have some more fun, that kind of thing. So there's more videos coming, pre-recorded. We've got more things to say about the things that you care about. And it's just going to be a very exciting time to see how everything unfolds. Just like it took forever to get to November 5th, now it's going to feel like it's forever to get to January 20th. But already President Putin says he is willing to, he congratulated President Trump, and he's willing to work with him. I think that Trump has a good shot at helping bring a solution to the Ukraine conflict, war, and we can stop spending billions of dollars on a war that is unwinnable. You can't win a war against Vladimir Putin. You've got to be a skilled negotiator. We know that Putin is a cold-blooded killer, but we also know that he seems to admire President Trump, that he misses the affection that he used to get and the respect, and he'd like to have that restored. Well, he's been responsible for so many deaths. I don't see how anyone could have affection for him. But I think he wants to be the Donald Trump of Russia. He wants that kind of adoration for himself. I know Kim Jong-un does, but he's too much of a mean dictator to let it happen. So he punishes his people, including the people in his government, has them put to death, starves them. He doesn't obviously starve. We can tell that. And he's a more brutal dictator. Xi is a brutal dictator, but Trump can handle him too. So he's got to have the freedom to do what the people elected him to do. And that will probably mean the Supreme Court has to step in from time to time to push back the plans of people that think that the mandate of the people, the rejection of wokeness, the rejection of 1 or 2% of the people taking away women's rights and girls' rights, etc., etc., spending on extreme groups who don't love America, don't love the Constitution. Kamala Harris at the end there tried to portray herself as a defender of the Constitution when really she was about shredding it. So, we'll have some video releases this weekend coming up, and leave your comments here and suggestions and what have you. My personal email is jackthefairguy, F-A-I-R, jackthefairguy @gmail.com. And that's your daily pop-off for Friday, the 8th of November. We've got dry weather. We are in a drought on the East Coast, and there's been conflicts. There's been fires breaking out in New Jersey and other parts, but of course there's also wildfires in California. We haven't had major rain on the East Coast here since late September. We're supposed to have a little bit on Sunday night, but not a whole lot. So the water levels are going down here on the East Coast, and fires are breaking out. Thanks again, everybody, for watching the Daily Pop-Off.